World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
When a new season starts, talking points are established. How will the last season's champion do? How could the top three get on against a new rivalry? And maybe new rivalries established down the field as well. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all, and welcome along to World Pro Racing. The third season of the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series is about to begin, and I can hardly wait for it. And wherever you are watching in the world, whether it's on ESTV, Motorsport TV, TVM Sport, the race, maybe perhaps you're watching on YouTube, on Twitch and on Facebook, it is a pleasure to bring this to you. My name is Kieran McGinley. Joining alongside me is the ever-present Nico Hillebrand. Nico, great to have you along for this one, especially for the start of the Sprint Series, and there aren't many better tracks than Laguna Seca we can get ourselves started with. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Laguna Seca, of course, one of the big classics in world motorsports, 3.6 kilometers long, so quite on the short side, only 11 corners, but it's definitely proof that a track doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to have 18 to 20, 25 corners even to be iconic and just fun to drive.
Absolutely not, and it's got a lot of history. First built and first raced on in 1957, and there's one part of the track that really has never changed, that legendary corkscrew corner. You're going down multiple stories in the space of a few meters. That undulation change really will test the suspension that you've put into the car. And Nico, when you approach a track like this one, it's quite a lot of undulation to have in just a few short seconds going through the corkscrew. So how do you set the car up for that?
It's quite difficult. Of course, you need a certain spring stiffness and, of course, ground clearance as well, simply so the car just completely bottom out. But I think mainly it's really a thing that the balance is just fitting perfectly from the front to the rear, of course, so the rear end doesn't slam on the ground too hard as it also approaches in the end, because as you said, it's such a steep drop, and for just one moment after you go fast to the first apex, you're just free falling almost. And yeah, the car's really noticing that, and so well the drivers in their steering wheels.
Yes, we look forward to seeing how the drivers will tackle that corkscrew corner, that legendary section of racetrack. A lot of history in that corner alone, let alone the whole of the racetrack. And over the next 5 weeks, we'll be sort of getting to know these drivers, how they can develop their skills, how they can hone in on that €500 prize pool. The top three will be walking away with a cash prize. All the more incentive there, Nico, to make sure you are at the pointy end of the field no matter what. We first then go to Laguna Seca, which is here right now, tonight. Imola will take us to next week. Then it's Kyalami, Monza and Bathurst. So it's a wide variety of circuits, and unlike previous sprint series where you get to pick and choose your car at every single event, for season 3 you're choosing one car and that's it for the rest of the season. You have to stick with that car for 5 rounds. So when it comes to these wide variety of circuits, you've got plenty of circuits that have that undulation, as we're going to Laguna Seca tonight. You've got circuits that rely heavily on the bravery of these drivers, Bathurst being one of them, a very narrow track towards the end of the season. But you've also got tracks out there that prioritise top speed, Imola and Monza. So where do you start with that car selection? It's almost like you have to choose a car that's going to compromise you the least.
Overall, you have to really just think what you're the most comfortable with, because of course you have certain cars that have their strengths in certain areas or just certain balance of performance packages, because of course 3 of the tracks that we have in this 5 race calendar are of course part of the IGTC pack. So I think the Honda is going to be a rather popular choice overall. Very, very fast in a straight line, makes over 280 kilometers an hour by itself at Bathurst, so we could see some drivers opting for that one. Especially since at Monza, it's a lot of straight lines. The Honda is very, very strong in a straight line. But also, maybe, I think some drivers will also go for, just the more often seen cars. For example, the Mercedes, the Audi, and I don't think that will get Luke Whitehead away from his Ferrari.
No, I don't think so. That's going to be a very difficult thing to try and drag him away of. And speaking of Luke Whitehead, he finished runner-up in the series last season. It's Redwan Messaoud who comes into this series as the defending champion.
Also have a different race format, so we can only wait and see how this will develop. And honestly, I'm quite looking forward to seeing how the drivers will now adapt to this new format, because of course some guys, the qualifying has a lot more impact on 2 short sprint races of, well, only 15 minutes that we had last season, instead of this 30-minute race, half tank, and people will actually have to adjust their fuel quite a bit there now.
They will indeed, as we see Harry Spears then spearing off into that gravel trap then on the exit of that flying left-hander. There is Luke Whitehead then, who finished runner-up in the series last season, tackling the corkscrew, going all the way through then, and you're dropping so many stories just in that stretch alone as you now make your way through in towards turn 9, onwards towards turn 10. Oh, big moment onto the gravel there, onto the sand, and managing to make sure he keeps the car out of the wall. It's only practice, so this is the perfect opportunity to get those last chunks of mistake out of the way. Here's Artur Czernecki then, as he makes his way towards the line, and the Odyssey Racing Ferrari across the line. He will go to finish off that practice lap. He does improve to a 1:22.5, and it's good enough so far for the 5th fastest car in this practice session.
And you can see actually quite a lot of variability still in the field. So, well, variety, sorry for the incorrect term usage there. Here we have Richard Schäfer from Butler Pal Motorsports. One of the guys who's more seen around the sim grid and RCI normally. However, him and his teammate Johannes Weiss now actually joining the World Pro Racing grid for the first time. And, well, also for some people who are longer in sim racing, it may be a little bit more popular from the race room side of things, where he was racing against people like Jack Keithley in the Williams team.
Yes, so he's got a bit of history behind him as well, as he now makes his way onwards then, and again finding a little bit of sand on the outside then. You would call it grass, but it hardly ever rains here at WeatherTech Raceway, so it's kind of hard to call it grass. It's more like the sort of dried bits of soil you get, so you might as well just call it a gravel trap and be the end of that. Here's Hindai as he makes his way now up in the Rookie Monsters Ferrari through in towards this flying left-hander, and it's a left-hander here that's causing quite a couple of drivers to, well, almost miss the corner. They're taking a lot of curb on the inside, and that seems to bottom out the car.
Yeah, and just generally it's very, very difficult to get that corner right, simply because you have to get so close to that curb. But if you just hit it wrong a little bit, if the car isn't set up 100% perfectly, you just can't really get the car properly settled. Front end loses a bit of grip, and that little bit of grip is just that little bit too much.
Yes, and the car does not like it. That is one thing is for sure. There's Oscar Langley Shikadami making their way now up through the Rahal Straight in towards the corkscrew, descending down as you try and find the grip out there, making the way now in towards turn 9, and it's pretty much downhill all the way now towards the final couple of corners, through in towards turn 10, and Langley Shikanami making sure they can find those limits of grip out there. She now makes her way in towards the final corner at turn 11 and making her way towards the line. The first, I believe, female driver to race here at World Pro Racing is Oscar Langley Shikadami. She crosses the line then, 24th fastest for now with a 1:26.0, but still plenty of time to get some lap times on the board. And making our way once again in towards the Andretti hairpin. And, well, we've already talked about how much history this track has here, Nico. There's a certain event at the Corkscrew that is always reminded of, all the way back in, I believe, in the early 90s at Laguna Seca. Quite a controversial, especially now, a controversial move at the Corkscrew.
Yeah, actually, late 90s, but it's very close enough. But, yeah, well, everyone knows him, Alex Zanardi. Sadly, mostly for his accident, but also Paralympic gold winner in cycling multiple times. Also after he lost his legs, winning multiple races in WTCC. But before that accident happened, two-time champ car World Series. Well, actually, back before it was the Champion World Series, back at when it was kart, 1998 and 1999 champion. And it was in those years when he made probably one of the most iconic passes in world motorsport history here.
You remember it?
Brian Herter, I think.
Yes, it
that
was.
He did that. Yeah.
Yes, because in that season, though, because this was the final round of, it was 1996, I've just reminded myself, because Alex Zanardi then went on to win Rookie of the Season in kart, but then the drivers' champion was Jimmy Vasser, who Jimmy Vasser in the last sort of 3 rounds didn't really have a great performance, but he did enough in the first sort of half of the season. He was absolutely dominant in that first half to make sure that he had really enough points so that the back end of the season, the tail end of the season, didn't matter to him so much. But yeah, the move on Brian Hurt at the corkscrew still talked about to this present day. In fact, Nico, we're still talking about it right now. Regan Mitchell crosses the line and 9th fastest in this practice session so far. There's Jeffrey Milutinovic. I got that right earlier on, but I can say whatever I want. He's now making his way now through this flying left-hander and making sure that he gets that absolutely perfect. He used the perfect amount of grip on the right-hand side, just on the exit there, just so he doesn't scrub off too much speed, because the one thing you really can't afford to do here at Laguna Seca, there's plenty of long flowing corners, especially into that second sector, and it's somewhere you really can't afford to lose any bit of momentum.
Absolutely, and especially in this Porsche here, rear engine, so you really always have to balance it a little bit on the throttle. It's really, really delicate work, but when you can do it right, it really is just a car that you have to deal with whenever you come out of any corner, and especially the last corner is just one of the perfect places where the Porsche can just set it up perfectly, get out of the corner, and if it has just perfect traction, as it normally does, well, quite something to deal with for the next straight into the Andretti hairpin.
Yep, and Milutinovic gets his way into 18th place in the Team Fordzilla Porsche. Yep, I found that weird too. However, making their way now in through this long right-hander, picking up plenty of that dry grass on the left-hand side. At the moment, though, we've just got over 2 minutes of this free practice session to go, so this is the perfect opportunity for those drivers to iron out their setups and make sure everything works perfectly for their upcoming qualifying session. 15 minutes of qualifying will await these drivers in a couple of minutes time after this free practice session, and then we'll be into our half-hour race. As Nico was saying before, there is a bit of a format change. We go into the single 30-minute race in season number 3, but also the point system now very heavily weights, in fact so heavily weights that it's the only way to score points, is the I've just seen the team name there of Ashton Cox. It's a great team name. Hi Nathan and Kiyu. So a big shout out to those guys there as Ashton Cox finds his way well off the track. A bit of a shake-up with the points scoring system. It's 60 points for a race win, and it trails all the way down to 30th place scoring at the one single point. But now there's no more bonus points. So there's no bonus point for pole position. There's no bonus point for fastest lap. There's no bonus point for what we called the most consistent driver. That was the driver closest to 100% getting an extra couple of points. So all of the points you can score are only in the finishing position of the half-hour race.
Yeah, so all of the, well, so to say, fancy extra points gotten removed. Now it's really just only important where you finish, but also very important, of course, that you finish at all, because after all, it goes down to 30th place in this point system. So even if you're having a bit of a bad race, for example, always worth to carry on and just get that little point. If you know, even if it's down to that little last point, always worth that little consolation point, because who knows, maybe you're gonna need it.
Who knows indeed, as Amado Akizi now makes his way through the final corner and onwards towards the start-finish line, currently 4th fastest in this practice session. And keep an eye on the top of the standings then, because there is Hamada Akizi, who sets exactly the same lap time as Luke Whitehead, a 1:21.8, but because Whitehead said it first, he takes the position there. It is only this free practice session, but I have to say the top 3 right now in this practice session separated by 3,000ths of a second. That's, I'm not sure I've ever seen quite something like that before.
Well, it's something like Head F in 1997, isn't it? Back in F1 when the European Grand Prix was there.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
almost like that.
almost like that because the three drivers got exactly the same time, but this is good enough. Within 0.003 of a second, that's pretty good, I would say. Here's Hinsai now making his way on towards the start-finish line, then currently 9th fastest in the 155 Rookie Monsters Ferrari, and finishes 9th fastest in that practice session, and pulls right over to the left-hand side. Goncalves then 6th fastest in the Porsche then, and we've got Jan Ryler, very familiar name to World Pro Racing, 13th fastest in the Ferrari in this practice session. And of course the checkered flag has been out for a while now. These drivers are just making sure that they finish off their lap times then. I think Jan Ryler is the last driver out there on a lap at the moment, and as you see, just over 9/10 off the lead pace of Luke Whitehead, and well, actually Luke Whitehead and Hamada Akizi, because they've got both the exact same time in that practice session. But for some reason Ryler didn't want to finish off that practice lap. He's decided to come back to the pits, but wow, 0.003 of a second separating our top three, and that's just practice. I can't wait to see how qualifying gets on.
Not just that, but the top 5 only separated by a 10th. So you see that it's going to be very competitive, and who doesn't love to see that?
Who doesn't love to see competitiveness? We're about to get underway with qualifying then to see who can claim the first pole position of a new season of the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series here on World Pro Racing. And a big thank you to our sponsors as well, to AMD, to HyperX, GT Omega Racing, Thrustmaster, Gaming Malta, and VisitMalta.com. So we're going to hedge our bets here. I'm going to say Luke Whitehead is in a strong position to try and grab that pole position by the scruff of his neck, but there are plenty of other drivers, Hamada Akizi being one of them, just one of them, able to try and take away that pole position crown for him that Luke Whitehead has got so used to getting here at World Pro Racing.
Absolutely, but the thing is, you know, when you are very competitive, when you're very strong, and especially when you're joining a bigger team like H3 Racing, the problem is Luke Whitehead started out here, and it was one of his first races that he did here a couple months ago. But you know, when you're fast, you will start popping up on people's radars, and as soon as that's happening, no matter whether you like it or not, competition will find its way to you. So now Whitehead will really have to watch out, or we'll have to start to watch out. Well, just you know, who gets as close to his back as he wouldn't expect before.
Well, we're about to find out then as Luke Whitehead takes us on a lap here of Laguna Seca over the crest and towards the Andretti hairpin, which you start braking now in towards turn 2, making sure it's a long left-hander here. Got to be very patient, back onto the throttle, back through the power, back through the gears, as then you make your way towards turn 3. Turning in here, you see a couple of bites of the cherry there to try and get the car turned towards the apex as we now make our way towards turn 4, staying onto the curb to open up turn 4 as much as possible there. Little clip of the sleeping policeman on the inside of turn 4. No harm done. Through in towards turn 5 now, again using that curb on the right hand side to open up this corner, carry a little bit more speed through in second gear, back up the gears now as you go up the hill towards turn 6. Very tricky corner this one because there's a divot, it dips towards the apex, but then you're back onto the climb. Very difficult for the car to handle that. Up the rahal straight and now in towards the corkscrew then, attacking the apex. You can't see the apex as you turn in, and even when you're just about to get back onto the power, you can't see the apex. You've got to aim and hope. Through turn 9 we go, and then onwards towards the right-hander of turn 10 again. Cambered towards the apex then, take advantage of that, and then in towards the final corner at turn 11, down into first gear, one of the slowest corners on this track, back up through the gears and back onto the power, and Luke Whitehead will come across the line to set the first qualifying lap of this session, and it's a 1:22.2, and of course, being the first lap time, it puts him at the top of the standings.
Absolutely. Harry Spears right behind him, but didn't set a lap, so must have gotten invalidated. One thing that is also very, very important to mention, the corkscrew, of course. Not just difficult because of the apex, which of course is blind, but also you may have seen it as Luke Whitehead was driving over it, but there's a crest in the braking zone. So just for a moment, you just start going back down again. You just get no proper weight on the front axle. So you really have to look out how you have set up your ABS, what brake balance you're racing, and of course, if the dampers are going to just completely supply you with the best amount of grip for the entire braking maneuver. It's such a difficult corner to get right, and every driver here knows that.
Every driver here does know that, and even Nico in the commentary box knows that. And if you fancy your hand at trying out circuits like these, well, why not join us on worldproracing.com. Don't forget as well, weekly casual races, special events and championships for all abilities. As long as you can keep it clean and listen to our FIA accredited stewards, then you're very welcome to join us. Our next casual event is coming up on Tuesday. It's the Mega Sprint Tuesdays coming up soon. We've got space for it. If you fancy your arm and fancy your chances, well, there's some lovely goodies on the line for you to try and grab if you do well in the series. So head over to the website to find out more about it. Here's Johannes Weiss then as he makes his way in towards turn 11 to try and finish off his lap time in the Bentley. Of course, once a driver picks their car, they have to be with that car for the entire series. Weiss makes his way across the line then to go 15th fastest, 1.4 seconds off provisional pole time.
Yeah, Franconian sets the same time as Jan Reiler just before him, on the same thousandth again. But I do believe that he can still do a little bit better there. His teammate, after all, Richard Schäfer, come actually straight from the Nürburgring. A couple tenths faster, and usually those two are very, very close together on pace. Now, meanwhile, we've got Gergely Consabo here in the Honda NSX. As I predicted, the car's getting a little bit more exposure than at European-only sorties that we have here at World Pro Racing. And definitely for the IGTC tracks, definitely, how to say this, a more preferred choice among drivers.
For sure, as Conchabo now in the gifted racing team Honda makes his way around the final corner and onwards then towards the start-finish line. And where will he go? He'll go 16th fastest then, 1.7 seconds off the lead pace at this moment in time. So it puts him nicely onto the 8th row of the grid. There's Oscar Langley Shikanami making her way towards the line. Currently 24th fastest in this session, crosses the line and goes with a 28.7 last time around. So backed off maybe on that lap just to buy herself some space out there, but she's got a driver right behind her as well. And even on a track like this, lighting up the rear tyres out of turn 2 there, even on a track like this, it's relatively spread out, but it's actually quite misleadingly short. It's just over 3 kilometres long, this track, so finding space around here for 26 cars is not as easy as it sounds.
Absolutely it isn't, and well, we are quite lucky that a couple of the drivers seem to be missing from the start here, from the first round, but as you said, 26 cars here at the moment. It's not really easy to find your gap all the time, because you can see how open it is now. On the track map there, we can see the track is completely clear ahead of Asuka Langley Shikanami. But at the same time, then you have this little group there that is now heading through turn 3 and 4. There's just not much space at all, and even if it's just a little tiny bit, of course there's still going to be some dirty air in effect between those cars.
Will indeed, and Langley Shikanami makes her way now on towards the final corner then, making sure runs a little deep actually into the gravel, and will decide to come back to the pit lane. It's still a long lap here, you might as well just come back to the pit lane, put on a fresh set of tyres and get going again. Jack Noller then in the number 36 RPM Esports Honda, 12th fastest so far in this qualifying session, and the top 12 so far separated by just 1 second. It's Tinko van der Velde at the top of the standings at the moment, 21.5. It's Hamada Akizi in second place, Luke Whitehead in third, Harry Spears fourth, Hinsai in fifth place, Artur Shanecki in sixth, Johannes Weiss in seventh place with Jordan Grant Smith in eighth. And that rounds off your top 8 very, very nicely indeed. We'll have to wait and see how the rest of this qualifying session go. It's Vasco Goncalves in 9th place, and then it is Schaefer down in 10th place, and top 10 covered by just 8.5 tenths of a second. Riding on board then with Jack Noller.
Yeah, gets through the Andretti hairpin with a little bit of squirming, couple more turning points than you'd normally have. Now coming to turn 3, and as you said, these sleeping policemen, they're just omnipresent basically from this point on. Always very difficult because you have to have that high cornering speed, have to take all of the inside curb if you can. But if you just hit that, you can see it a little bit from Whitehead on his first quali lap. You hit it a little bit and you have to be very quick on the corrections, and either way you lose that so desperately needed momentum. Now coming up the hill after turn 5 into turn 6 now. Once again, the sleeping policeman on the inside, one car rejoining from the outside there, that's McLaren, I think there was Ashton Cox. on the Rahal straight, now over that crest that makes the braking into the corkscrew so difficult. Now through the corkscrew, this multi-story drop down through turn 8 and 8A, now through turn 9. Very difficult, of course, as well, because slightly off camber. Now turn 10, trying to take all of the momentum through there. Not taking all of the curb on the outside that he could have taken there from Nola, but now turns into the last corner, gets a clean launch, well, a little bit of an unclean launch actually, a little bit of a wily rear end, but still comes out and doesn't quite improve.
Doesn't quite improve, but a good sign at the very least for Jack Nolla then, as currently 12th fastest in this session, of course going for another lap. Just under 5.5 minutes to go there. There's Vasco Goncalves then in the Row Racing Porsche, currently 6th fastest. And there is Johannes Weiss going for a trip across this dried grass here. Rejoins back onto track. 8th fastest so far from Weiss, but that's not going to help his lap time whatsoever. Jan Ryler exiting the Andretti hairpin, onwards then towards turn 3. 13th fastest for the Ferrari, then a 22.6, I believe that is his fastest so far. Just over 1 second off of provisional pole position, but at the moment there, top four separated by less than 700ths of a second. That is mighty close.
Absolutely, and well, I think the more that we still go into these last less than 5 minutes, I think we're going to get a couple guys. We're getting even closer, but Jan Ryler in his pursuit to get closer within that 1 second barrier just barely clips too much off the inside curb and then, well, sadly finds himself in the wall.
Does indeed. And there, meanwhile, is the number 66, your pole position driver so far, Tinko van der Velde in the Sidemax Motorworks Ferrari. Top of the table by just over half a tenth of a second from Hamada Akizi in second place, Harry Spears in third, Luke Whitehead in fourth place, Artur Shanecki rounding off our top 5, as the Sidemax Motorworks car might have a little bit of tow from the Bentley ahead as they now make their way in through turn number 5, up the climb then, ascending towards turn 6. Might help to have a little bit of a tow up in towards the corkscrew, then braking hard then, and as you saw with multiple onboard shots, when you go back onto the power you cannot see the apex of the corner. You are positioned in a very awkward place, but it's a matter of relying that the track is going to be there, relying that the grip is going to be there, and having complete faith in the car and the setup to get you through the corner in the way that you want. Van der Velde then making his way through the final corner, back onto the power towards the start-finish line. Is this going to be an improvement? At 21.588 is his personal best so far. He does go quicker, 21.534. Every little helps for Tinko van der Velde, and here's a gap at the top of the table increases.
Yeah, overall very good line from him. A little bit nervous rear end out of the corkscrew, but nevertheless didn't really hold him up, and well, you can see the improvement coming along. Also very nice to see that size comparison between that humongous Bentley and the, well, rather short, low and sleek Ferrari. So very different approaches into the GT3 class being visible here, and who doesn't love to see that kind of variety?
Yeah, and you saw Johannes Weiss then in that Bentley running slightly wide out of turn 3, getting a little bit of a tank slapper on, and immediately you saw Tinko van der Velde get onto the lights to warn him that he's coming through. These drivers' reactions are just slick. They know exactly what to do, and they know what to do in what scenario. Here's Jordan Grant-Smith, who goes 5th fastest in the Open Visor Racing Club Pro Audi. So not a bad lap time at all. All the 3s, tenths of a second behind Tinko van der Velde, which puts him now on the head of the 3rd row of the grid.
Absolutely, and Jordan Grant-Smith, of course, one of the guys that we're used to seeing all around the communities. A lot of driving experience behind him, and well, it's visible when he's in cars that he's used to. That Audi, he's quite used to it as far as I'm concerned, and I think that he may even still be able to improve a little bit further on that as he makes his way up the hill once again, now coming into turn 6 and up the Rahal straight.
Absolutely. Up he will go then towards the corkscrew. Of course, he's got, at the moment, 2 more laps in him, so long as he's fueled for it. And there is, I think that's Jan Ryler taking a little bit of a different line. Maybe a homage to one driver, Alex Zanardi. But, well, we'll talk less about that one. Grant Smith then making his way through in towards turn 10 and then onwards then towards turn 11. He'll have a little bit of tow from Jan Ryler ahead of him on towards the line. Luke Whitehead back into the pits, then fourth fastest, and he won't have enough time to get back out onto track to maybe set another lap time, so fourth fastest is as fast as he will go then at this moment in time, as Grant Smith will get another opportunity. But Luke Whitehead, look at this purple in the second and last sector, with Harry Spears purple in the first, and yet there's two drivers ahead of them, none of them purple in either sector, but both faster lap times.
Yeah, I think it's just that first sector where Whitehead is really struggling, and it's, well, to be fair, I think overall it's just really something that a Ferrari may be struggling with, because the two drivers ahead of him, first and second place, both Ferraris, but they're just no match for the naturally aspirated Mercedes V8 engine through their first sector seemingly.
Pedro Gomez making his way towards the line in the number 43 car. Now is 18th fastest. And with just a handful of seconds on the clock, he's still got a chance for one more flying lap where you're into the closing stages now.
And Pedro Gomez now with the Rookie Monsters Ferrari, trying to improve a little bit further, because obviously 18th isn't quite the most optimal place to run, but still. 9th row and actually abandons the lap, so 9th row maybe for him a comfortable starting position. Sheldon Scott Muscat now in the number 14 Honda in 15th place, with a little bit of a wily rear end as he hit one of the curbs. Trying to improve on his last run as well. Very, very wide, uses all of the track available as he comes up the rail straight again. And now about to be on the braking. Now there he comes onto the braking, over the crest and into the corkscrew. And you can just, it's just so difficult. You can see how much the grip is struggling there, how much the car is struggling to turn in there. And it's really just such an abnormal feeling when you turn into that corner. Your steering gets completely light and then completely heavy. It's basically the same as the dipper at Bathurst.
Absolutely, it's a huge challenge for those drivers as Sheldon Muscat then builds up the power out of turn 11 and onwards towards the start-finish line. He's currently 15th fastest. He'll move up to 14th fastest towards the end of that session. Goncalves in fifth place then, just under 0.2 of a second. I believe there's only a couple more drivers to make it to the line, but a really interesting qualifying session. And Tico van der Velde really looks in top form at the moment. The last time we checked in with him, he grabbed that pole position, but within the top three, the top four all really separated by 0.2 of a second. Going down to sort of 5th and 6th place, it's 0.3 of a second. A very close field in qualifying normally means we've got ourselves a good race heading up our way.
Absolutely, and of course we also can't discredit the notion, of course, because this is quite a high-end series in the end. We have a lot of very highly talented drivers, and of course, well, a cash prize pool. People are going to be mad after that, and I think quite a few of them will be running, you know, qualifying setups, so we will have to see now how they will hold up in the race, of course.
Yes, no points up for grabs in any position for qualifying. That is a change from last season. Every single point that can be scored will be scored in the next 30 minutes, with 60 points going to the race winner over the next 5 races. We're about to wait and see who will make it to the top of the standings. As Nico said, there's a prize pool at the end of this series up for grab, €500, which will be split between the top 3. So getting in there is going to be really important for these drivers. We've had the likes of Redwan Messaoud come here and show us how it's done. Well, without him tonight, there's a chance for somebody else to pick up the pieces. I wonder, Nico, who is it going to be?
Well, your guess is as good as mine, because, well, we have a couple of new faces around, of course. Butler Pal Motorsport making their first entry here with 2 Bentleys, actually occupying the 6th row. So, yeah, with how wide the Bentley is, I'd probably say if they just keep it side by side into turn 2, into the Andretti hairpin, it's probably going to be a roadblock for the cars behind. But, yeah, also just a lot of good drivers here, so we'll really have to see.
We will indeed. And Nico was talking about teams here. Yes, you will see that some drivers are affiliated with teams, but that bears no resemblance in what's going to happen out on track because it's a driver-only championship. So you'll be able to see which driver's affiliated with who, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work together. There's no teams championship. It is solely the driver. So I'm wondering going into this, it's always interesting going into a series where you've got quote-unquote teammates or people affiliated with the same team. It's not always easy to predict how they're going to act once they actually get out onto track and the green flag drops.
Yeah, of course. They are down when it comes down to it. You know, they all just own drivers. They all want to, well, get the big pot at the end. But the thing is always, you know, you don't want to hit your teammate, even if there's no team's championship. It's always a little bit embarrassing, so to say, when you hit your teammate. And of course, when you've got a teammate there, you know, and you are close together, it's normally quite a thing, you know, that you still tend to work together with your teammate. So I'm wondering just how they will probably just look about to, well, deal with that, so to say.
Well, we're about to find out how it all plays out in the following couple of half an hour. Tinko van der Velde is going to start this race at the head of the field. Hamada Akizi in second place with Harry Spears in third. Luke Whitehead in fourth place with Goncalves in fifth. Grant Smith in sixth. Militunovic in seventh place with Sai in eighth. Shanecki ninth. And Jack Noller rounding off the top 10. Should be a pretty interesting set of affairs coming up in the next half an hour. First of all, though, the drivers are out there on their formation lap. Get some heat into the tyres, get some brake temperature up as well before they then get into 2x2 formation ready to start this race. Nico, what's going through a driver's mind on this formation lap? It's a pretty long one here when it comes to Laguna Seca because you're trying to make sure you get as much heat into those tyres and brakes as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, not only the tire temperatures are important, also the tire pressure. So you really just want to be as close to the racing pressure, so to say, on the formation lap. But of course, the brakes, you have to start getting the temperature in as soon as possible. And you can already see that a lot of people testing their brakes as quickly and as much as they can just to keep that temperature up. And of course, hot brakes, well, or warm brakes, so to say, they will also keep your tires just a little bit better on pressure.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the 202, that's Oscar Langley Shikanami, has not made the start. She's currently there in the pit lane, 25th at the moment. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean she's not taking the start. She might have to start from the pit lane. We have seen that before in the sprint series where drivers have had to start from the pit lane. Maybe they've missed that cut-off point to get to the start and get to their grid position. So we'll have to wait and see. Keep an eye out on that one. But as the drivers make their way now through the corkscrew onwards then towards turn 9, it's going to be Van der Velde who leads the field then. And he won't be able to accelerate on the start-finish line until the green flag is dropped. It's going to be Hamada Akizi on his right. So he'll have the inside line, Will van der Velde, in towards the Andretti hairpin, the first braking point on the circuit. But behind them, it's anybody's guess. There's good lines around the outside if you can find them. But we'll have to wait and see what happens then as the drivers, you can see here, just making their way through in towards turn 10 and then just trying to make their way in towards 11. And of course, right now, all that work you've put into the brakes and tyres are slowly, you know, evaporating away. The cold starts to come in as they now exit the final corner at turn 11, and they have to stay at a set speed in their set grid positions, and this is where those heat out of the tyres and brakes will start to fade away, so be careful down in towards turn 1. It's Van der Velde on the left, it's Hamada Akizi on the right. The green flag has dropped and we are racing. We are underway at the WeatherTech Raceway as they make their way through in towards turn 1. Already Hamada Akizi on the defensive from Harry Spears, going down in towards the Andretti hairpin for the first time in this race. Van der Velde is able to hold on to the lead of this race then, with Hamada Akizi in second place, Harry Spears in third, Luke Whitehead holding on to fourth place, Goncalves then in fifth in the Porsche as we make our way now out of turn 3 and onwards towards turn 4. We've got yellow flags all the way down at the Andretti hairpin, and the 171 I think that is, or 271 it could be, involved in that one. Johannes Weiss could be there. The treble one is definitely involved though. Gergely Kunshabo is involved. The number 30 27, Jan Ryler around there. And the 202, I'm glad to say, has taken the start. Oscar Langley Shikanami already up a position through that first lap melee. So she may have just missed the cutoff point to get to the start of the grid. But she has started this race. Oh, there's contact going in towards turn number 5. There's a car around. There's multiple cars taken to the sand on the outside. And I think one of them will be the number 11 car, I think. So that's Jihad Naga, who finds himself around. So really unfortunate there. We just saw that in picture, a driver find his way around. But there is Jan Ryler, 25th and last at this moment in time. At the end of a very eventful first lap, Tinko van der Velde does lead the way from Hamada Akizi. But Luke Whitehead has got the position ahead of Harry Spears and moves up into 3rd place. Grant Smith also has had a good start. 4th place now as he passes Harry Spears in towards turn 1 and down in towards the Andretti hairpin. Harry Spears tries to go the long way round in towards turn 2, can't find the way through, and Jordan Grant Smith now up into 4th place.
Absolutely crazy start, and just as we thought we had seen everything, another crash there. But that's just the difficulty of turn 6. When you're close together with everyone, you're not quite able to see everything unimpeded. And of course, someone will hit that sleeping policeman, maybe just get loose a little bit, and the car right behind that, of course, they're not going to want to lose time. Either way, Van der Velde is still able to lead, and honestly, Akizi, with all of that movement coming through turn 1, I was really glad that he didn't have a big off there at the start. But still hanging on to the rear now.
Yes, absolutely. He had that bit of battling with Harry Spears. So let's have a look at what happened at turn 5. So we're watching Pedro Gomez. It's 3 wide on the exit then. Becomes 2 wide as they make their way up towards 5 now. Oh, and then the Ferrari loses the back end. Now, was there a little bit of a tap there? Wasn't quite sure. And then just a little bit of Constantina effect from that little bit of a moment. And that just caused all sorts of mayhem going through. And so, Tinko van der Velde leading the way. Of course, no mandatory pit stops, so these drivers will be fully focused on putting in qualifying lap after qualifying lap to make sure that they can pull away from everybody else. Van der Velde leads from Akizi in 2nd place. Luke Whitehead in 3rd. Harry Spears has got back up to 4th place after passing Jordan Grant Smith again. Inside in 6th place with Milutinovic in 7th place. Sharnecki in 8th. Schaefer in 9th. And Weiss rounds off the top 10.
Question is, you said it quite correctly actually, qualifying time after qualifying time, but the thing is, how much will the tires be able to put up with it? Because half an hour is one heck of a long time, of course, and you always really notice the degradation of these tires rather early already, and we now have in the view actually the 2 Bentleys here, so actually getting more than just the Mercedes of Harry Spears into the top 10 now. He was the only front engine car actually in the top 10 in qualifying, but through a good start, both of the Bentleys of Butler Pal Motorsport actually now in the top 10 and right on the tail of Artur Sharnecki.
Yeah, and if you're the Butler Pal Motorsport drivers, of course, it's very early on in this series, and it's a driver-owner championship, so these two will be rivals throughout, and they're occupying pretty much the same bit of track. Johannes Weiss then coming out of turn 11, trying to get the better exit and the better run on Schaefer up ahead as they now go over the crest through turn 1 and then find their braking point down towards the Andretti hairpin. Of course, a bit of an eventful opening lap. It'll keep our FIA accredited stewards busy. Adrian Figallo and George Muscat will be quickly onto the case to bring us any news about any penalties being applied to any of these drivers. Zamfir Radu then is under pressure. I think that's Ashton Cox then up the inside. No, it's not. It's Conchabo up the inside, and the treble 1 Honda gets the position away then and goes up into 21st place. The next car is the McLaren, the 158 of Ashton Cox, as they're now battling for 20th place in this race as they find their way now through towards turn 4. Zamfir Radu in the Quattroventi Aston Martin making his way now on towards the long left-hander at turn 5, and then we go up the hill towards turn 6, and these three will be pretty close together for this battle for 20th place. Of course, it's a point scoring position, so no wonder they're going to battle for it.
Absolutely, and it's really quite interesting actually. Cox was one of the cars involved in the turn 6 incident and Consabo in turn 2, so it's really quite interesting how you can sometimes have that harmonica effect, that the drivers just get dragged apart by incidents, but then through other incidents and, well, through just the ebb and the flow of racing, they just end up back together on track.
It's always the way. No matter what, you're going to be pretty much with the same group of people for the entire race. There is Hamada Akiza then just trying to turn up the wick and trying to put some pressure on Tinko van der Velde for the lead of this race then, as they now find their way through and towards turn 4. Hamada Akiza gets a good run out of 4. Now towards turn 5, he'll be on the outside, trying to find that way through, fighting the wheel as he battles his way through turn 5. Up the crest we will go then towards turn 6. Van der Velde holding on to the lead of this race for now. But look at Akiza. He's getting up and close and personal with the rear end of that number 66 car. No way through so far. Maybe a move up the inside in towards the corkscrew here. Contact made, door to door. Hamada Akiza is around. Keeps it out of the wall only just though, and gets a little bit of a tap, but it's a long wait now. And he taps the wall again to reverse to get out of the way. Had second thoughts about rejoining, but all that hard work that Hamada Akiza put in, tried to make a move stick at the corkscrew at the top, missed his braking point slightly, door-to-door contact, and he comes off the worst.
That's just the thing about the corkscrew. You try to make a pass and it's very high risk, but also very high reward, of course. But very good rejoin there from Hamada Akiza. A lot of experience being shown there that he didn't just spin back onto the racing line. I almost thought he was going to do it, but you could immediately see, he slams on the brakes, just completely backs off and, well, even damages his car to not get in the way of his fellow racers. Now returns to the pit lane, of course, and sadly, I think that may have been it for him.
Well, there's still point scoring positions to be had. As long as he makes it to the checkered flag, he should be able to score some points. We've had some word from the stewards then on lap number 1 of this race. The treble 1 car of Gergely Kunchabo is going to get a 10-second penalty for an avoidable collision with the number 37 car, which was Jan Ryler, who I don't think is in this running at the moment. If he still is, he's well down the order. So 10 seconds added to the treble 1 car of Kunchabo. So that'll be at the end of this race. 22 minutes to go then. Van der Velde leads from Harry Spears in second place, Luke Whitehead in third, with Jordan Grant-Smith rounding off our top 4, who are very close to each other out on track.
Absolutely, and through all this chaos, of course, the 2 Bentleys have made up this place as well. So everyone's now trying to inch closer and closer into the top 10, and, well, the guys who are already in the top 10 inching closer and closer to the top 5. But very close fighting here. Luke Whitehead again behind, well, actually still behind, again behind Harry Spears. So while Hamada Akiza had his little off there, Harry Spears probably used the, well, luck of his situation there to get back past Luke Whitehead after Whitehead got past Spears at the end of lap 1. And yeah, we can see already guys close in pace. They're going to be fighting for the entire race here.
And look at that as well. Jordan Grant-Smith fancies his chances as well. Currently 4th place in this race as they now head up the hill out of turn 5 and towards turn 6. But Van der Velde is just trying to get away from that battle for second place between Harry Spears and Luke Whitehead. They now ascend up the Rahal Straight and towards the corkscrew once again. The quick flick of the right at 7, then in towards turn 8, the corkscrew heading down the hill then as you're testing the limits of the car. Then through turn 9 we go to this long left-hander, continuing to go down the hill then in through turn 10, and then finally rounding off with one of the slowest corners on this track in towards turn 11. We've seen cars go through here in first gear, and that's just in qualifying trim, so you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to be going through there in first gear in the race. But Van der Velde leads by just over 1 second ahead of Harry Spears. Luke Whitehead in third place. There you can see Grant Smith in fourth. There is the number 54 of Dean Vella trying to see if he can find and sneak away past Chris Bourne for 16th place. He'll try and move up in towards turn 11 there, but manages to back out of it. Now Chris Bourne might find himself a little bit compromised out of turn 11, because there is Dean Vella trying to grab the inside line through turn 1 and then descending down in towards the Andretti hairpin. He has got the move done. The Honda moves up into 16th place, and I wonder if that was planned from the very start at 11.
Well, absolutely, and quite honestly, it was just really well done here. You have to know your strengths and your weaknesses when you're driving through these, and one of the things about the Ferrari is it's very happy to rotate, very happy. It's very agile, but the thing is when it over-rotates a little bit, the traction control is very eager to then remind you, hey, you're killing the tires. You are potentially also in a spin that's not recoverable by yourself. I'm going to help you out. But very often, of course, we also saw it with Luke Whitehead earlier, trying to get a run on Harry Spears and then not succeeding. The car's just getting over-controlled, so to say, by the traction control, and you're just losing a bit of time there. And Dean Vella brilliantly used that in his Honda, with all the power that the Honda V6 has, with VTEC, of course, and used that down the front straight to make a move, and, well, Chris Bourne not even able to challenge that there.
Yeah, because Pedro Gomez got away past in towards the corkscrew, and it just looked like the number 118 car of Chris Bourne lifted off and just let the move happen there. Sheldon Muscat, though, battling away with 13th place between himself and Oscar Saristo. Down in towards the Andretti hairpin we go. Has Muscat got his braking point right? He'll run deep into 2, but he'll have the momentum to take with him as he runs towards turn 3. Sheldon Muscat in the RPM Esports car making his way up into 13th place, but Saristo trying to find a way back past in the Nissan, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's the only Nissan we've got out on track, so a brave decision from Oscar Saristo. At the moment he finds himself in 14th place. Sheldon Muscat though up to 13th and will try and carry on his charge.
Absolutely, and here we have now Regan Mitchell in, I think, well, you mentioned only Nissan, now we have the only Lamborghini that I see on track. So Regan Mitchell and Goncalves very, very late on the brakes there, barely able to get the car stopped. But yeah, this is just one of the things. You get over the crest in the braking zone for the corkscrew. And, well, this lovely saying, you know, Code Brown, it very much applied, I think, to both Mitchell looking into the rearview mirror and Goncalves looking through his windscreen there.
Oh, definitely so. As we see then Harry Spears, second place right now. Luke Whitehead trying to sneak a move up the inside, then coming out of the Andretti hairpin. They're running side by side. In through turn 3 we go. Harry Spears managing to hold on for now, but there you'll see Luke Whitehead. He'll get a better run out of turn 3. Through turn 4 we go, and that Mercedes is being hounded by the Ferrari of Luke Whitehead, now making their way on towards turn 5. There you can see just riding aboard the rear wing of the Sidemax Motorworks Mercedes of Harry Spears that Luke Whitehead has got him in his sights and just filling those mirrors of the Mercedes at the moment. Grant Smith lurking behind as well, looking to try and pick up the pieces, and Hinsai as well in 5th place. You can just about see about 1.8 behind the Audi of Grant Smith. There you can see how hard that Harry Spears is having to defend this position. As we see then, you can see that Luke Whitehead wants that move done then in towards turn 9, but can't quite find it. Maybe down in towards turn 10. No, Harry Spears driving the widest Mercedes here at the WeatherTech Raceway. This is allowing, look, Jordan Grant Smith to close up to this battle. In towards turn 11 we go. Maybe he'll have a chance out of the final corner to get a good run and up towards turns 1 and 2. This is allowing Tinko van der Velde, by the way, to get a sizable lead. 3.6 seconds it is with only 16 minutes to go, and we've had word from the stewards then that the number 11 car of Jahed Naga is going to get a drive-through penalty for causing an avoidance. So that's the incident we saw at turn 6 at the very first lap, that little bit of a Constantina effect. So Naga will get himself a drive-through penalty for that incident. Meanwhile, turning our attention back to this battle for second place as Harry Spears grabs the apex going in towards turn 5. Up the rise we go in towards turn 6. Luke Whitehead and Jordan Grant Smith very, very close for comfort.
Yeah, very close indeed, but I think that's something that Harry Spears has calculated. Well, like Tinko van der Velde, he's a Sidemax Motorworks driver, so I think, honestly, Harry Spears, he's very, very comfortable, and he's a very strong defensive driver, so maybe he knows that he doesn't quite have the chance to, well, the chance or the pace to challenge his teammate, Tinko van der Velde here, but he will definitely try to make his car as wide as possible to keep that second place, to get a very much desired 1-2 for Sidemax Motorworks.
He will indeed, and he's trying to do that right about now. Riding aboard then with Jordan Grant Smith in the lone Audi in the field. Making our way now up through turn 1. Will Luke Whitehead have another chance going in towards the Andretti hairpin? Because Harry Spears has done a tremendous job in placing his car perfectly. Then you could see there Luke Whitehead saw a gap opening up, but it was quickly closed, and he still wanted to try and take it, did Luke Whitehead. Harry Spears showing his experience here and making sure that he's got all his bases covered for now going in towards turn at number 4. This is a great defensive display from Harry Spears, showing us how it's done. Moves to the left-hand side of the track, then back to the racing line. Luke Whitehead still cannot find a way through going in towards turn 5. Up the rise they go then towards turn 6, and Jordan Grant-Smith has got the absolute best seat in the house. He's got the popcorn, I'm sure, set up next to him watching this one as we now make our way up the hill then, up the Rahal straight towards turn 7. That slight kink before you slow the car down in towards the corkscrew, and the three of them really battling away here for second place. Luke Whitehead again trying to prioritise his exit, gets a slightly worse off run than Harry Spears actually ahead of him this time around. Little bit of a tail happy moment out of 9, loses him another bit of momentum, but Jordan Grant-Smith can't be just too close enough to take advantage of that one. They hold their positions for now going in towards the final corner, and they go for another lap to do it all over again.
Yeah, very difficult of course, but for Harry Spears the factor is very, very nice right now, because he knows, of course, that Grant Smith is right behind Whitehead, so Whitehead will now have to multitask here to attack and defend at the same time. So we have Regan Mitchell here with Goncalves still right behind him, and slowly, I think, losing Jack Noller there in 10th position, as he's trying to defend from the Porsche, of course, from that immense rear-engine car, the only rear-engine car, of course, in GT3, and of course, very, very nice all ever-present traction out of slower corners here for that vehicle.
Yeah, and it's a shame that Goncalves is down in 12th place. He was showing some good place. I believe he was up in 5th place at one point in this race. It is a shame to see him down the order slightly, but it has been a tough race for some of these drivers, and it's great to see Goncalves just trying to make his way back through the order as best he can. Of course, there are points still on offer in this race, even if you have a bad one. Get it to the checker flag, get it to the line in one piece, and you've got yourself a good chance of scoring some pretty decent points. There's Oscar Saristo then. Well, I expected Sheldon Muscat to try and pull away, but Saristo has done the absolute opposite of that. He stayed on the back of Muscat and still in with a shout of getting back past him for 13th place in the SOP Motorsport Nissan, making his way through in towards turn 9, now in towards 10, and that is a very, very nice battle developing once again for 13th place. We've already seen Sheldon Muscat make the move on Saristo for 13th, and maybe Oscar Saristo finds himself in a position where he could try and swap that round again.
Besides the two drivers having a nice battle on track, it's also, well, the revivals of two absolute cult classics battling against each other, because of course, you know, Nissan GTR, Honda NSX, it's a battle that we could have had on track about, well, almost 30 years ago in the mid-90s, of course, with the predecessors of these respective cars.
Yes, and it's still great to see that even all these years later, we still have these cult classics really pushing to the limits. There is Oscar Langley Shikanami then. More Pro Racing's, I believe, first female driver. 21st place for her at the moment. She unfortunately missed the start. I would love to know the reason why. We've seen drivers in the past. I believe Luke Whitehead was also caught out with tyre pressures at Silverstone in a sprint series one time, and he missed the start. He had a good qualifying position, had to start from the back and had to recover from there. So it's a very easy thing to do. But Shikanami at the moment in 21st place. It's still good points then as she makes her way down towards the Andretti hairpin for another time around. So it's Tinko van der Velde leading the way, 3.8 seconds ahead of Harry Spears. But that battle for second place with just over 10 minutes to go is going to be one heck of a battle. Harry Spears is holding on, as I believe they've got a lapped car ahead of them as well. That could be the triple one of Gergely Kunshabo ahead of them. I want to be corrected if I'm wrong, of course, as they make their way now on towards there. It is a Porsche actually, so it won't be Kunshabo.
That is Naga.
It is Naga, you're absolutely right. So it wasn't the treble one I spotted, it was the double one. It was the 11 of Naga. So not quite, Kieran, not quite. But Jordan Grant-Smith seemed to get a little bit hampered by that one. He's fallen a little bit further behind than he would have liked behind Harry Spears and Luke Whitehead. And traffic in a half-hour race is not something the drivers may have prepared for.
Not quite, and of course it's always, well, it's always really weird to catch traffic in these corners here. Normally you want to let them by on a straight, but just at the beginning of a corner, of course, especially here at Laguna Seca, with all these around 90-degree corners, you always want to carry a lot of momentum through there, so you want to just take the optimum racing line all of the time. but not just quite able to do that there. And, well, Grant Smith with the Audi, a car that relies heavily on getting the best momentum through a corner, quite caught out there, but now Goncalves. Both of them on the limit there, right?
On the limit, absolutely, and they were showing us the absolute respect between the two of them as well, as Regan Mitchell manages to hold on and Goncalves trying to find a move down in towards 11, not quite there just yet, but Goncalves has made his intentions clear. He wants that 11th place, and he wants it now.
And I think we just lost Oscar Sarista there, just coming out of turn 10, if I saw it correctly. I'd be grateful if we could get a replay for that, because right behind that, of course, we have Sheldon Scott Muscat, who was fighting Saristo in the only Nissan. And I think we had Saristo getting a bit of a tank slap out of turn 10 and actually hitting into the pit wall, or just entering the pit lane without hitting the pit wall there. So, yeah, just some of these views that we see out of the corner of our eyes there.
Yeah, and I'm told that Shikanami's start was missed due to some technical issues. That's why she didn't take the start. That's why she didn't take her grid position at the very start. That's why she had to start from the pit lane. Luke Whitehead then really attacking the second part of the corkscrew as you head down the hill, really taking and making use of the curb on the left-hand side to make that part as straight as possible, try and build up the speed and build up that momentum. Whitehead then trying to size up a move, maybe around the outside in towards turn 11. Harry Spears on his inside. In theory, Luke Whitehead will have the power to put down sooner. Harry Spears does well enough to shut that door. There you can see Grant Smith then in the Audi, taking advantage of a little bit of a tow then down towards the Andretti hairpin we go once again with just over 7.5 minutes left in the first round of the sprint series there. Grant Smith fancies his move up the inside, sticking a front splitter up the inside, but not quite there enough to take advantage of Luke Whitehead and his positioning there at the exit of the hairpin. And whilst Grant Smith does that, it means that Luke Whitehead loses a little bit of momentum from Harry Spears ahead. So if they start battling each other, they might do each other worse than might actually be helping each other at the moment.
Absolutely, but honestly, just that moment through the last corner, normally I would have expected Whitehead to be able to pull side to side, but Spears in that actually non-Evo Mercedes, that raw amount of power in that car, absolutely incredible. And now Dean Vella's trying to go around the outside, has a bit of contact there. I think that was with, yeah, that is Radu. And now past Radu, so I think that is something that may have to be looked at, whether it was Vella closing the door a little bit on Radu, or if Radu was just simply understeering into Vella. But either way, Vella gets past Radu through the Andretti hairpin, and now up into 17th place.
Yep, 17th place for Dean Vella in the number 54 RPM eSports car. His next target, 2 seconds up the road, will be Silver Pyramids in that number 23. However, I don't think Radu is done just yet. He wants that position back as they now make their way through turn 6, up the Rahal straight, and then towards the corkscrew once again, as the cars now file their way through. Oh, Gurley Conchabo, did he make contact with the back of the Aston Martin of Zamfir Radu then? He certainly backed off there and let the Aston Martin take the track there. So that, to me, indicates a sign of guilt there from Gurley Conchabo.
Yeah, absolutely, and you saw how much overspeed the Aston Martin randomly had, so well, suddenly had. And I think that's really because Consabo just really difficult there. Probably just had a little bit of damage on the front already, and then of course when there's less front downforce, you need all of the downforce that you can get on the brakes, and well, ABS maybe just set in a little bit too much, or he just misses his braking point a little bit too far, and that contact is then easily made, of course.
Yep, and there's Gurley Conchabo then getting up to 18th place. Of course, he has a 10-second time penalty for that avoidable collision penalty that he was awarded by the stewards on the very first lap of this race. So he's worked hard to get that pass done on Radu, but it's going to be taken away from him. He won't pull away 10 seconds in 5 minutes. Goncalves then 12th place in this race so far as he makes his way now down in towards turn 11. He's got Regan Mitchell right ahead, Jack Noller for 10th place as well in the distance. as Sheldon Muscat fancies his chances of joining on to this battle and latching on and seeing if he can find a couple of positions here and there. As we head into the final 5 minutes of this race, then Van der Velde leads by 5.3 seconds ahead of Harry Spears and Luke Whitehead. Jordan Grant-Smith has dropped away from that battle for second place. He now finds himself 1.7 behind Luke Whitehead. So that three-way battle for second place might just be a two-way battle till the end between Spears and Whitehead. Still, we've got a battle on for second place.
Absolutely, and well, there we are. Harry Spears just defending now only from Whitehead, so something must have happened to Grant Smith. I think probably just a slight little driving error or something. But either way, Grant Smith still very much there, and if Harry Spears continues his, well, defensive driving so far and, well, focuses a little bit too much on defensive driving and doesn't keep up the speed, I'm pretty sure that Grant Smith will be there very soon again. Actually, Whitehead taking a little bit off the inside curb, so not really doing himself any favors for the main straight here either. And of course, they have Langley Shikanami up ahead to lap.
Yes, they do. And Harry Spears here, I have to say, it has been such a great drive from these Sidemax Motorworks cars of Tinko van der Velde currently leading the way. Harry Spears holding on to second place, but holding on would probably not do this drive justice. He has been defending brilliantly all race long. He's put his car in exactly the right places and he's made life difficult for Luke Whitehead. There's Vasco Goncalves then up the inside of the number 69 of Regan Mitchell, and now moves into 11th place. And Jack Noller, that's for 10th place. And we know Goncalves has some good pace around here at the WeatherTech Raceway. He might fancy his chances here on Jack Noller. Into the toe he will go. And on the run towards turn 5, not normally an overtaking opportunity at the best of times. Through we go in towards turn 5, but watch that space for Goncalves. He's got his pace back, he's got past Regan Mitchell, he's now got Jack Noller ahead. That's a battle for 10th.
Absolutely, and meanwhile at the back we also have Sheldon Scott Muscat lashed right on now, but look at this momentum that he got through turn 6, maybe looking down the inside, no, not quite, thinks better of it, and actually, just maybe a little bit of magic there from the camera angle, but that looked very, very close to me on the brakes for Sheldon Muscat right behind of Regan Mitchell.
It did. However, Goncalves does manage to keep it out of the rear splitter of Jack Noller, thankfully. In towards turn 11 we will go with only just over 2 minutes on the clock. We will get at least 2 more laps in this race. There's a battle for 7th place developing as Schaefer tries to go up the inside but clouts the sleeping policeman on the inside of the Andretti hairpin, and that is the Team Fordzilla car managing to hold on. Milutinovic just holding on to 7th place at the moment from Schaefer, and Weiss right behind. 2 Bentleys. 1 Bentley in your rearview mirrors is already terrifying enough. Double that and it's double trouble.
Absolutely, and well, of course, we also have the complete opposites from each other. You know, front engine naturally aspirated, well, rear engine naturally aspirated flat 6, and well, a small little sports car and 2 big V8 twin turbo. Well, not even saloons, they're just way bigger than that even. So yeah, but once again, Goncalves, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. He got a really good run. Sorry to cut across you there, Nico. Out of turn 6 there and trying to find a way to slow that car down without running into the back of Jack Noller. He did supremely well there, as I believe we have just started the final lap of this race win with Tinko van der Velde in the lead of this one. But we're watching on for this 4-way battle for 10th place in this race. Goncalves clearly has the pace. It's one thing having the pace, it's an entirely different thing to find a way past, as there you can see Regan Mitchell fancies his chances once again, as that is Schaefer who has got the move done then on Milutinovic, and maybe Weiss fancies his chances as well for 8th place. So that's Schaefer who's got past. Weiss will fancy his chances now, and there's a 4-way battle for 10th place. Jack Noller holds the line, but Goncalves is going to make it extremely difficult. Oh, contact made there going in towards turn 3, and Goncalves loses out to a position. All that hard work he put in passing Regan Mitchell. Regan Mitchell has simply taken that position back. Goncalves might find himself under pressure from Sheldon Muscat as well. The important thing about momentum is you've got to have it around a circuit like this, and Muscat takes away 12th place from Goncalves. Goncalves. At the head of the field then, there's really only been one driver from the halfway point in this race who's been in with a shot of winning this race, and that is the Dutchman in the Sidemax Motorworks Ferrari. It's going to be Tinko van der Velde who flashes his lights in joy and will take the win of the first round of the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series here at World Pro Racing. What a drive though from Harry Spears, defends hard and takes second place in this race. Luke Whitehead finishes in third, could not find a way past. Jordan Grant Smith finishes in fourth place then, with Sai in fifth, Shanecki in sixth, Schaefer crosses the line in seventh place, Milutinovic in eighth, Weiss in ninth, but Jack Noller is three wide. Oh, there's contact between Jack Noller and Goncalves towards the line they went then, and the stewards will definitely have a look at that. But Regan Mitchell in 10th, Sheldon Muscat in 11th, Jack Noller across the line in 12th place. Goncalves then will recover and cross the line to finish in 13th place. Chris Bourne then coming around the final corner ahead of Pedro Gomez for now, and Chris Bourne in the Exiled Virtual Motorsport Ferrari flashes his lights across the line to finish in 14th place. Pedro Gomez in 15th place, and Dean Vella will not be too far away to finish in 16th place. Gogli Kunshabo will have a 10-second penalty added to his time, so he will probably finish down in 19th place once that penalty has been applied. But he finishes 17th out on track in the gifted racing team Honda. Across the line he will go. Radu in 18th place, with Silver Pyramid out there just making his way towards the line to finish the last driver on the lead lap and in 19th place. But Tinko van der Velde then, well, he had a dominant display today, winning by more than 7 seconds in that race and being the first driver to pick up the first win of the season. Harry Spears in second place and Luke Whitehead rounding off our top three. Well, what a race we had. There was action up and down the field, but the one driver that wasn't involved in any action was the driver who then eventually went on to win the race. Tinko van der Velde, from about halfway in that race, managed to build the gap and there was no stopping him afterwards.
Absolutely, and well, normally you have it sometimes that's drivers get a little bit out of the rhythm if there's an attack like a crazy try to pull there. Absolutely legitimate attempt, and you know, in the end, sadly, he was the only one also that lost out. And you know, luckily Van der Velde not affected by that. But either way, if you see that gap, if it's a legitimate possible move, then you know you have to go for it. And well, he went for it. Sadly, it failed. But yeah, Van der Velde, fantastic drive from him, and as soon as that fight was resolved with Akrisi, nothing could stop him. Also to the help of his teammate, of course, who put up a fantastic defensive drive to finish in second place, Harry Spears, putting that old Mercedes absolutely to brilliant use.
He really, really did, and he just knew where to place that car at exactly every single opportunity. Luke Whitehead just could not find a way through. And I have to say as well, for Jordan Grant Smith, fourth place in that race, he did a really, really good job out there. He started to fall away towards the back end, towards the final third of this race, but however long he was in that battle for, he looked right up there on the pace.
Absolutely, and I think it's just one of these things. He was a couple times in a position where he could have made a move but thought better of it, just wanted to hang in there a little bit longer. I think he was building a bit on it that Spears and Whitehead would make a mistake among themselves, because they had a legitimate just knife between the teeth, so to say, full-on Rambo fight going on. No one was giving each other any presents there, no one was gifting anyone each other that. They were really just on the limit there. And I think Grant Smith was maybe counting for a little bit of a healthy gap there. But sadly, you know, if you slip up yourself, then not quite able to profit from that little comfort gap that you had. And of course, down the order, we had that, I think, 10th place finish, Jack Noller and Milutinov. No, actually, sorry, the wrong Porsche there. One of the Porsches there, actually, I had a bit of deja vu there, because one of their very iconic American Le Mans Series finishes there, also between a Porsche and a Corvette, just as they come to the finish line, crash between each other. So yeah, a big surprise there. So
It was a big surprise because Pedro Gomez obviously as well finishing further down the order than we maybe expected, but it was Vasco Goncalves who found himself in a little bit of trouble there in that Porsche going towards the start-finish line. He really did have a tough race today. He had the pace. We showed that in qualifying and in practice that he had the pace, but nothing seemed to go his way today.
Absolutely, and the Porsche, of course, is one of these cars that can put it very, very easily into one lap. You know, it's a very nice car, but of course I think it's actually the only car as well, not only for the rear engine but also that has the fuel tank in the front, so it's even more difficult for the driver to just constantly adjust to the ever so changing, well, weight balance of the car, and I think that really just played into it today.
Absolutely, and I think we get to have a chance to speak to our top three drivers. First off, we're going to speak to our third place driver in Luke Whitehead. Luke, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
So, Luke, staring at the back of a Mercedes all evening, I don't think that was in your script. Or talk us through that race, because it looked like a hard-fought battle, but a fair one at that.
Yeah, it was a great battle. I mean, I had the pace for a win. I think that was quite evident from the start, and I was quite shocked, to be honest, because I'd been struggling in practice the whole time, and then in qualifying I finally got my setup together, and in the race I was just much faster than I thought I would be. And then I sort of, as I say, I had a battle with Harry, and it was very harsh but very fair, and I enjoyed it. It was very good fun. And then of course midway through the race I sort of started to struggle. My brake pedal dumped all its fluid. It's a hydraulic one, so it had no fluid in it, so it was going to the floor for the whole race, and every time I tried to go for a move I just couldn't, because I didn't want to break the pedal. I think I'm looking to swap them out now, because it's losing me races, and it's really not what I want. I should have probably been in the fight with Tinko. I had the pace to be, and I think without the problems I probably would have got past Harry. I nearly did on a few occasions and was let down by a lack of braking, so disappointing, very disappointing, knowing that I probably could have won it. But there's positives to take. A track that I've not driven around ever in the Ferrari, in the drive. I've never driven it up until about an hour before practice. The pace was really good, and we're going to, I think, Monza next. Am I right in saying that?
I believe it's Imola next.
Oh, well, even better. I love Imola, especially in the Ferrari. So, yeah, I've got that to look forward to, and Monza and a couple of other races I'm looking forward to later in the calendar. But, would have preferred a better start, and gonna have to sort these brakes out at some point.
Might have to. Bit of stopping power needed, I think, especially in a track like Laguna Seca. But obviously, when you're coming into a brand new season, obviously you finished off the last season as the runner-up. Obviously, the title is on the line here. Do you think you can do it this season? Can this be a Luke Whitehead season?
Yes, and I plan for it to be. Last season, I probably could have had more. I probably could have been closer to Red One. If it wasn't for a mistake from me at Imola last season, I missed the second race, and that lost me about 30-40 points, maybe even more. I don't know what the points were like last season, but the pace recently for me has been really strong. The Ferrari is a car that I'm very accustomed to, and I've been driving it a lot in Apex Online Racing and SimGrid, and we've been grabbing podiums in that consistently on a consistent basis. In SimSport last week, first race with them, and I won. So the pace in the Ferrari is really good, and I hope to carry that forward for the rest of the season. But as I say, disappointing start, but I can definitely build on this.
Yeah, we're a long way from done from this series, that's for sure. But congratulations on your 52 points scored in the Sprint Series tonight with that third place. The floor is yours, Luke, for any shout-outs, any sponsors you'd like to mention.
So first of all, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Hashtoir Racing, as always, because they are just awesome. I don't really give them as much credit as what I should do sometimes, but they're awesome. They've been giving me so many opportunities and so many different, they've helped me a huge amount, with my... not only my racecraft in sim racing, but also my knowledge of the setups. This setup this weekend was an adaptive setup, and I did a lot of the stuff myself, and I gained a lot from what I did. So my knowledge is improving thanks to those guys. I'd like to say I'm unlucky to Hamada and to Ashton Cox. Those two had a really tough race. I'm gutted for them as well. So did Dickhead as well. Those guys had a tough one. Hamada probably should have been in the running for the win as well. I think I didn't really see what happened, but I feel really bad for him. I'm gutted for him, but he's really quick. He's one of the best, so he'll come back. Don't count him out at all, guys. But yeah, finally, I'd like to say, as always, another shout out to my mum. because she really likes them, and and she really deserves it at the moment. She's had a really difficult time of it. You know, post-operation, having a brain tumor removed is never something that is, you know, it's less than favourable, let's just say. So, you know, it's been weighing on our minds, and I send my love to her as always. And thanks to everyone watching as well. I hope you enjoyed the race.
Well, thank you very much, Luke. It's been a pleasure to talk to you as always. Congratulations on your third place. Go and enjoy yourself. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
And Nico, I believe you now have the second place driver in Harry Spears.
Harry, first question of everything. How do you live with so much spatial awareness? Like, how do you train it so hard that you can just slot in front of a Ferrari without any second thought, seemingly?
Oh, no.
If you haven't realized it, you're still muted, Harry.
I've been caught out of that, don't worry. I don't think we're going to get a chance to speak to him just yet, so we might have to move on for now. I will have to speak to Tinko then, unfortunately. I'm going to have to jump in here. But Tinko, if you can hear us, congratulations on your victory here today. And you're starting to drive away from the rest of the field there. Talk us through that, because that looked pretty easy on your end.
Yeah, I'm so happy with the win, of course. Great start to this season. And it was not that easy, actually. The start, I didn't quite have the pace. I took it easy, of course. I was in P1, didn't want to fuck it up. And yeah, I don't know what happened to Arquizi. He dived on me, I think, and he spun out. And I kept it straight, luckily. So I just kept going after that, and then Luke and Harry had a great battle behind me, so I could just cruise away from them.
And of course, you've scored 60 points now. You're in the lead of the championship, of course, after winning that race. I'll ask this to you as well. You've shown us and you've pretty much laid down a marker. Is this going to be your season, Tinko?
Hopefully, yes. I want it to be, so I'm gonna fight for it. I'm gonna practice for it, and I will do my best.
Fantastic. We love to hear it. Great rivalries developing. Just quickly talk us through Imola, Tinko. We've already heard from Luke. He's looking forward to it. How are you feeling about it? Are you looking forward to racing at Imola?
I'm not too sure, actually. The races I've had there, they were not quite fun. I had incidents and stuff, so I'm hoping to avoid that next week and to be on the pace.
Great stuff, Tinko. It's been a pleasure to talk to you as always. Congratulations on your race win today. Go and celebrate, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
And hopefully, if Harry can hear us, we'll have a couple of quick questions with Nico at the end there. Harry, can you hear us? And I don't think we can hear him, unfortunately, so we're going to have to unfortunately say that there, but I'm sure he would have been really thrilled to talk us through that defensive masterclass against himself and Luke Whitehead. It's such a shame. I think he has issues with Discord at the moment, so that is really unfortunate. But that will bring us to the end of tonight's stream and tonight's show, so thank you very much for joining us for it. Nico, we saw some great battles out there, especially the one for second place, and it allowed our race winner Tinko van der Velde to simply cruise away, in his own words.
Absolutely, and well, I'm just looking forward to Imola. It's a very challenging track. Similar in the aspect that you have to carry a lot of momentum, but I think at Imola we'll have a couple more overtaking opportunities, and I'm quite excited to see how the BOP there will affect the overall driving order, so to say, and if it will affect it at all.
And you can join us here. Hope you're excited for it as well. Next week, set the date in your diaries, write it down so you don't forget. We'll be here live at Imola for the second round of the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series here at World Pro Racing. And wherever you've been watching us on ESTV, Motorsport TV, TVM Sport, on the race as well. Perhaps you've been watching us on YouTube, on Twitch and on Facebook. It's been a pleasure to bring this race to you, and we hope to see you again soon. A big thank you to our sponsors in AMD, HyperX, GT Omega Racing, Thrustmaster, Gaming Malta and VisitMalta.com. Our FIA accredited stewards in Adrian Figallo and George Muscat. Our guys behind the camera as well in Justin and Nathan Mifsud. They're doing a fantastic job as always on the scene and bringing us the streams. From Nico as well, being my companion here, doing a great job as always. We'll hope to see you again next time here on World Pro Racing, and until then, take care of yourselves and we'll see you again very soon.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.